Hey, welcome from Huntington Beach. Surf's up. Look at that. Look, just take a quick look. Turn it around. Lots of people getting waves. Lots of surfers out there this morning. I saw a woman just go out just a moment ago. She went out over there, but then she joined the others over there. And while I was setting up, I saw quite a number of really good rides. All right, I'm going to read another chapter of Going Alone this morning. This morning I'll be reading My God is a Little God. Funny name for it. Seem to be having a connection issue. There we go. Stay. Look at that. See that guy riding over there? Nice. Look at that ride. Oh, there's two guys now. That's very Southern California classic. Ooh. Oh, I gotta clean this. I got sand all over the towel. There we go. That's a little better. And now we have a nice view of the surfers. Okay, My God is a Little God. I wrote this chapter because I would find myself in my more expository writing referencing a deity that I called my little God. And that deity was feigned, not real, and in fact it was mocking in a way. I noticed that character to the writing. And it kind of popped up so often because I would mock it. I was mocking, and it was not real because it was kind of a reverse highlight of the emptiness that I kept finding in the deeper desert. You know, the absolute absence of any sign of deity, that I began to give it the title of deity, but I made it my little God. My little God who was alone and afraid and clung to me because it required me and it required my credulous belief for its existence. And that it really didn't like going to the desert with me because it was afraid I was going to find it out. And so you can see that a whole character developed as a result, and I wound up giving that character, my little God, its own chapter. It's not a very long chapter, which is good because I have a lot to do today. There it is. And there's a picture. You can't see it from all the way over there. A drawing looking out of the cave in the desert that I found that I call the Home of Faith, and my daughter drew that for me. Okay, my God is a little God, expecting nothing more. And a quote: "We have not yet encountered any God who is more merciful as a man who flicks a beetle over on its feet." That's by Annie Dillard. Here we go. I have come to realize that the muse I so often speak of, and which is the source and inspiration for so many of my thoughts, must be the same muse which heralds and inspires the words, music, thought, and motivation of the religious. A distinction, though, is that I apply and attribute no animating will to this contrived agency beyond the scope, breadth, force, and power of my own weak and faltering intellect and imagination. It is no wonder, then, that I neither trust my God's wisdom, guidance, or even its mere existence. My God is a little God, which can neither speak, write, argue, or even think without my own willful cooperation. And that's all there is for the standard prose. The rest of this chapter is the bits and gleanings from the period when I was writing the book that referenced the little God. Now, the little God appears elsewhere in a few places in the writing, but if that happens, it's usually because I didn't move it here, because those little blurbs were more attributable in reference to whatever chapter I was writing at the time, and more important to keep the storyline by keeping them there. But these could stand alone. Here we go. Notes from my muse. And you can always tell these notes part because they're in the italic, left justified font and style. I told my little god of the desert today. He'd never heard of such a place. I admired his honesty in fessing up his ignorance. This may be one of his stronger traits. He seemed afraid to learn of the solitude in the desert, and he asked me if any gods or spirits might be found there. I told him it seemed there are none in the wastes. I didn't bother explaining it's all wastes. Now that's one blurb. Now there's going to be a whole series of them all the way to the end of the chapter, which, like I said, isn't very long. There's little tilde marks between each of the blurbs. So if you're reading it, you can differentiate and you can break them up that way. Since you can't see what I'm reading, I'll break it up with a pregnant pause. Caring for a very small God isn't unlike tending a young child. Both are convinced of their omnipotence and immortality, and each at times rails at the world with an impressive wrath and fury. The difference being, the child possesses an anger they can truly inflict upon the world, while my little God relies on my belief to achieve even the slightest destructive end. My little God begged me today to believe in him. I think he's become suspicious his immortality is dependent upon my belief and patronage. Did someone tell him of his contingent existence? Has he learned the root cause of his being? How very afraid he must be. I told my little God that we're going to the desert tomorrow. He seemed unsure after I explained the place carefully, so as to not offend his growing sense of omniscience. I told him the desert was a place for losing what we cherish and for gaining what we fear. He nodded slowly, muttering something about the need of a temple. I suspect he'll soon be very disappointed. My little God has no sense of his ignorance, which I reckon the greater measure of his omniscience. I really like, if I do say so myself, I really like that particular line. That captures it. I told my little God about the helpful muse we might meet in the desert tonight and tomorrow. He wasn't at all pleased, and complained of my holding another before him. It didn't help that I explained my muse is dead and not even real. Such threats he leveled at me then. Maybe when he meets the nothing himself, he'll realize how little there is to fear. I've reached the near edge of the deep desert and, oh my, it's cold. I didn't come prepared for this, and I've still 100 miles to go before I reach Siberia and the safety of my desert camp. The sun's just now gone away, and I know the deeper cold is coming. This is scary, just like the summer heat which has now passed was scary, only this scary burns in a way that brings on shivers and chattering teeth rather than delirium and fatigue. I'll bundle up now as best I can and turn on the motorcycle's heated hand grips, which are a peripheral comfort. My small God is noticeably absent now. Have I perhaps been forsaken? He's been pestering me for a prayer. Maybe he thinks I'll relent in the wild. For the record, I remember that event very distinctly. That experience of the cold and still being 100 miles away from Siberia. Ghost town, that is. I've discovered my little God is afraid of the new horizon which I uncovered this weekend. Such irony that I've been hooked up with a domestic God, a deity of home and hearth, a God more comfortable behind a walled garden or a locked door than amidst the frontiers of creation. My little God wants nothing of the larger world and covers his ears when I speak of the great indifference. It's no wonder he's so jealous of others. His wrath now is no surprise. I wonder how we can reconcile our difference, find peace between his small heaven and the greater universe of reality. I suspect I'll simply need to leave him alone, leave him at home when I go out. Let him alone with his credulity and finality. Deny and protect him from the vast ignorance in reality which looms like a giant before us both whenever we step outside the door. In fact, I didn't leave him at home because he never existed, my little God. But I did, in a way, symbolically leave him in the desert. So here in my book, there's a section where in the chapter called "The Anxiety Hike," where I describe leaving something for you to follow. So if you or anybody actually ever attempts to retrace my steps, I symbolically left my little God in the desert. He's out there right now. And that's fine because he's not real, of course, but he's out there now. And you'll know it if you find it, because I left a note too. And I kind of imagine how funny it would be if 100 years from now someone discovers my little God out there in the desert with the note I left behind. What the hell? But be careful if any of you see this and you try to go out there, because it'll kill you out there. You can only go out there for a couple of months of the year, in the winter and the spring and the very late fall, right on winter. Otherwise, you'll die. You'll die. You'll die if you try to find it. Sorry. My little God's insistence on immortality is striking, given his additional claim to know everything. Shouldn't he understand his immortality cannot possibly survive my death unless I can find another to believe after I am gone? I guess, at risk of sounding like I'm flattering my own work, which I guess I am, I'm pleased with the reference there over and over to my little God's ability to exist only if I can believe and then find someone else to carry on the belief, which I believe is the case with all gods. They believe because of they exist in a way because of our belief. My little God came to me tonight trembling and asking after eternity. I told him I hadn't a clue and could offer no suggestions along these lines. He went away wide-eyed and perplexed. I'll bet he's going to make something up. A benefit of not believing in ghosts is that ghosts never come to scare me. Likewise, monsters, demons, and poltergeists, they all keep their distance. The supernatural seems to only haunt the willing, the skeptical mind offering seemingly infertile soil for what is not really there. I've done so my whole life. I've been taunting and tempting spirits, ghosts, demons, devils, whatever, to come and possess me and damage my life and curse me or whatever they want. And they never do. Nothing ever happens. They never show up. So I guess it's a benefit of not believing, because they leave me alone. Maybe if I believed in demons and devils and ghosts, maybe then I'd get haunted, huh? My God is small because he has no ample space to live within my mind. He'd probably be a great God if only I'd believe. If I'd only believe. He resides on a dusty and neglected mental shelf where I keep my credulity and faith. A place well illuminated with doubt to keep out the vermin. I chose that word carefully. He'd be much happier on a shelf with certitude or belief, though it seems I've only enough to sustain the slightest of gods. It's a little tiny shelf. And here's the last one. I told you it's a short chapter. I awoke past midnight to walk barefoot through the dark, not far from the tent. Just enough distance to unsettle whatever comfort had seeped in from the warmth of my sleeping bag and the safety of my shelter. I so enjoy the feeling of letting go the rope to anything sound and settled, to drift for a distance naked and shivering in the cold, to stand vulnerable beneath a vast and seemingly eternal canopy of stars. That's why I reject my muse, those ghosts and my little God. less for the fact that they aren't real, and more for the desire to do without the false comfort their non-existence could never honestly provide. I like the way that ends. And that's it. That's the end of this chapter. It's a short chapter, which is good because I have a busy day ahead of me. I'm going to. I've already done so much this morning. I've done my Good Life meditation. I read the Bible. I edited a page of one of my books. I updated. I did a journal entry, and I updated my blog. And then I prepared chicken for the dogs, and I fed the dogs, and I let them out. And then I came here and did this, and I think it's not even 8 o'clock yet, I don't think. I think it's like 7:30 a.m. After this, I'm going to go home, and I'll go home and clean the house. And by then, Yumiko should be up, and we're going to head out. We're going to go to Torrance today to meet a reader from Germany who has come, and I've got a copy of Going Alone to give him. And I'm really looking forward to meeting him. That should be a lot of fun. Let's take a look at this earth and see if there's any comments to answer. So there's a gaggle of guys about to go out. This couple here, I see them sometimes, this man and woman. Oh, look at the guys way out there surfing. Look at this. Nice waves. No one on them, though. Let's see if we can catch some guys riding. No, this guy's all ready to go. Oh, there goes the guy. Oh, good. That's a good wave. Short, because it kind of, piles up and then falls down. Let's see if these guys get it. No. Oh, there goes the guy. Short one. All right, thanks for joining me. I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.